Great girlfriends, get ready for the 2018 Doers and Disruptors Conference in New York City. This year's conference is dedicated to igniting great girlfriends, putting your ideas into motion, and moving the needle to get the results that you desire out of life. Join us June 21st and 22nd in New York City for a 2-day event with brilliant doers and disruptors across various industries who started with an idea and blossomed to become change agents, global influencers, and enterprise leaders. At the conference, you'll gather for workshops, panels, connect groups, dance breaks, light bites, and more while getting tips and resources to fulfill your passion in your personal life, your career, your business, motherhood, relationships, and more. Don't miss this opportunity to join forces with women who are on the same mission as you and experience the excitement and impact that only Brandis and I can bring to life. Get your tickets now at thegreatgirlfriendsconference.com. We'll see you there.
This episode of the Great Girlfriends podcast is recorded in Mouth Media Studios in NYC, which is powered by Sennheiser, the future in audio. Check them out at mouthmedianetwork.com.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Danielle.
And before we jump into this week's episode of the podcast, make sure you sign up for our newsletter at
thegreatgirlfriends.com.
And don't forget to leave us an amazing iTunes review.
Yes, that is the payment for listening to this podcast.
I love it. 5 stars all the way. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
What's up, great girlfriends? Brandis and I are back with part 2 of the Author's Corner, Editor-in-Chic with Mikki Taylor. Mikki Taylor is editor-at-large of Essence Magazine. She's a popular writer, motivational speaker, TV personality, and the country's leading authority on beauty and style for women of color. Most importantly, she is a great girlfriend. And when I say she laid out so much wisdom on this episode, y'all won't even be ready. I promise you. If you didn't listen to part 1, go back and check it out. It is so amazing. Part 2 is going to just give you so much more to hang on to. And I'm telling you, Mikki's new book is one to have in your library. So make sure you go out and grab Editor-in-Chic today. But for now, listen in as Mikki lays out even more wisdom so that you and I can thrive as women in today's world. Enjoy.
You have to do the work. You have to do the work. Mm-hmm. You have to understand you, all of you. Mm-hmm. It's the sum, if you will, even of your wins and losses that contribute to who you are. That's part of what makes you so compelling. Because you have a story to tell. You have a journey that you're living, that you have lived every single day. And guess what? You're still here, and you ought to be thriving. Because nothing and no one had the capacity to take you out. Nothing and no one had the capacity to take your gift away. Nothing and no one had the capacity to cancel your beauty.
Oh, that's so
and
good.
If you don't see it, it's because you pull the shade. You pull the shade.
We need this moment right here.
We just need this moment. We just need this moment. Okay, Mikki. So look, I know the great girlfriends right now. They need a moment to just breathe.
Oh, because they're trying to rewind.
They need a moment to breathe.
They can't write fast enough.
Well, let me tell you. Y'all, I know y'all need a moment to breathe. Because I need a moment to breathe.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Mikki, what I love is, guys, what you hear, this is who Mikki Taylor is. In November, I got a chance to go to dinner with you. And she was there for 5 minutes at the dinner. She did a breakfast for me the next day with all these beautiful women in Memphis. But we had dinner, and it was she and I for 5 minutes by herself. And within that 5 minutes, she said something that to this day, it's like right in front of me. And I was telling her something, and she said, Brandis, you keep looking, what'd she say? You're moving into uncharted territory, and you're trying to look back to go forward, and you can't look back to go where you're going. 5 minutes We had been at the dinner table.
Like, what do I do with my fork?
And I literally, that 5 minutes, I shared something with her, and she looked me in my eyes and told me that, and I was like, okay. And I just, I feel like now we're missing this voice, and I've said that to you. We're missing this voice. We're missing the voice of someone who's been there and done that and sees more for us sometimes than we can even see for ourselves. And so, I mean, I'm just loving that the Great Girlfriends you don't have to just hear this on a podcast because she's going to blow your mind, I'm telling you. But that you've actually put this into a book. That women can now, I feel like this book is going to be a book that people won't read one time. I think this is going to be one of those books.
Yeah, it's in your bag daily because you're flipping to a page and you're reading stuff that she says that an empowered woman knows that great style, the kind that has impact not only on how you look, but on your very presence, is a reflection of the critical work she does to master every aspect of who she is. I could sit with that every day.
I do. I believe this is going to be one of those books that's going to be all raggedy because women got it wet in a tub.
And you're calling your girlfriend like, girl, you got my book. Okay, I'm going to order another one on Prime because you kept mine too long. You're wrong for that.
Thank you.
Yes. So I would love to just transition to this book, Editor in Chic. And talk about kind of like when you had the idea to do this book, before we kind of dive into it, what is it that, like, what's your purpose for it?
Well, I wrote Editor in Chic again because I want women to live fearless and inspired lives. I want us to thrive. There's so much talk about survival. I don't want to see us out here surviving. I want us to thrive. 3 tenets of Editor in Chic. I want us to own our lives, celebrate our beauty, and master our purpose with distinction. And we get to determine that. Editor in Chic gives you the tools that help you to see yourself in full. And I tell you, that is something to see. It really is. And, living fearless, I grew up, my mother taught me, so much. But one of the things that stayed with me is that to be risk adverse is to be success adverse. The ancestors paid so much. Here we are walking in their dreams. They had no choice but to risk it and risk it all. So why are we holding back? Why are we fearful? Why are we thinking we can't advance in this area or create a script where there isn't one? Or like I said, blaze a trail, never mind taking the road well traveled. And so it's important. It tells you everything you need to know in being your best self. Certainly, all the beauty stuff, the skincare, the makeup, the determining your own style is all there. But that chapter 1 asks you to own the queen that lies in you. And it talks to you about everything you need to do so. And I gathered women from all corridors because, it's not only about, what I know for sure, but it's also about the showdowns in my life and in the lives of the women who have this conversation with me and how they found their oxygen. And so everyone is in there, from an Iyanla Van Zandt to a Cookie Johnson to actress Asia Naomi King, a Jill Scott. And, what does it mean? What fuels your sense of strength, purpose, self-determination, self-appreciation? I talk about the importance of having what I call that celebration circle, because your greatness was not designed to thrive in isolation. So you got to know who is in that circle, who you can trust, who you cannot trust, who's come for a season and who's there to stay, all of those things. And then what it means to dream and discover. One of my favorite hashtags is Dream Live, because a lot of time we're hallucinating somewhere on the page of someday or one day, and those days don't show up. Yeah.
Do you understand how much women need this right now? Do you get like how much women need this at this moment?
I have glimpses of it as I travel the country and I talk to us, and I find myself saying, sis, you got this. You were created for this. Go on and do this. Don't stand back. Take him at his word. Trust him without measure. There's all to this to you and more. You need to go and see the rest of it. If you think you did good with this, go and see the rest of it. You ain't seen nothing yet. And so from those conversations, I said, let me put this down. Let me put this down. You know, when the grands told us stories so we wouldn't forget. And if we didn't take the time, though, to sit at their feet and listen, we missed some stuff. So I said, certainly as part of my legacy, let me put this down.
Yeah.
Let me put this down.
Oh, that's so good.
That my daughters will read this whenever they're in doubt. You know, that my son will go back to this. And my daughters-in-law and all of that. Yeah, let me just stop here this minute in time and put this down.
I don't know if you've done it, but you know you have to do an audio version, right?
That's what they're telling me.
Oh, absolutely.
That you have to do yourself. Because
This
I would just sit and turn on that audio.
Even in film, you know, I think so many times when we see in the beauty industry, those that sit on the outside, is we see the sale of the facade, and people just buy into the facade. And then every time we get to sit with someone who has their feet, their mind, their body planted, we hear every beauty industry influencer insider I've ever talked to has said the same thing. It's not about the exterior. The exterior is a reflection of the interior. And if you can get the interior right, you can make the exterior, you know, much more appealing. But it's getting that into the minds of women. And so taking the time to put this manual in place for us is so important, because like you said, you start in chapter 1 and you're focusing on self, and I Own Beauty I would automatically think is an exterior reflection, but what you talk about is an interior reflection that evolves outwardly. And so I think, Mikki, for so many generations of women, sisters, daughters forward, everyone's trying to figure it out. And one thing that Kamara talked about when she was on was that help, being able to ask for help when you don't know, being able to pull wisdom from somewhere where you can get the help. And you've written this manual of help, but how important has it been for you, even in the writing of a book? It's a new task. I mean, you speak and write so beautifully, but how did you have to ask for help? Was it something that you knew you had on your own, or how important was it for you to pull from other people to do this body of work?
You know, I'm always like a curator, hunting and gathering. This being my third book, certainly my first book, the conversation was had with women like Oprah Winfrey, Halle Berry, you name it. The second book was all about Michelle Obama and my conversations and observations with her. I'm always looking to add to the picture. So, you know, one of the things I learned years ago, if you're the biggest person in your circle is too small. And that also that you don't have to know everything, but you do need to surround yourself with enough people, divine-minded people, that together they make up what you need to know. So yeah, this book was no different. I really wanted to talk to the wisdom keepers, the many makeup artistes, if you will, the medical professionals, the clinical psychologists, the fashion stylists, all of them, you know, in my circle, if you will, to help give us the best information, so that we could be the best version of ourselves every day. Every day. Even that last chapter, Master You Inc., You Inc., the 25 takeaways on what you need to know in life to be your best self. So, yeah, there's a lot of voices in there. And that was deliberate. Yeah, because I don't only want you to take my word for it. You know, I don't like any untested advice. And that's why I caution us about who we have in our circles. So, you know, I'm talking to everyone. You know, even a podiatrist who told me she developed this spray so that it has liquid lidocaine in it. So if you want to be in your heels an hour longer, you're at a conference and you're standing at the podium and you're doing a TED Talk, here's what's going to allow you to do that TED Talk in those heels and not have your feet calling for attention.
That's in the book?
That's in the book.
Hallelujah.
Oh.
That's in the
her
book.
name and number.
That's in the book. So, yeah.
That's innovation.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love on page 58, you say, are you standing on the promises of God or standing by waiting to see what's going to happen? Don't be on standby, show up ready. I love that so much because I have a couple of friends who have been praying for the same thing for so many years. But the thing they're praying for, I feel like, and I've kind of tried to gently say, God is waiting on you. He may not bring that thing and drop it in your lap. And I think sometimes we're praying for something, but the thing we're praying for, God is waiting on us to do.
The thing to remember is that God doesn't have to prepare the blessing. The blessings have been prepared for you from your genesis, from your birth. You have to do your part. More often than not, he has to prepare you for the blessing. He doesn't have to prepare the blessing. No.
So what we're praying for a lot of times is already there.
It's already there.
We just have to go and...
click your heels, Dorothy. Click them.
Yes.
Click your heels.
Click your heels.
Stop this. You want to go home? Click your heels. Stop wandering through everybody else's jungle and journey and trying to help them find courage and this, that, and the other. Click your heels.
Click your heels.
And go on home. Show up ready for your blessing.
If we could, I literally just had a mental picture of the blessing that I've been asking for already there. It's already prepared. Every day, it's my choice whether I walk towards it or not.
Every day. I'll give you a perfect example. There's so many. And I know God has a sense of humor. And the biggest laugh has been on me because it's just, for example, this year, God willing, I'll celebrate my 36th wedding anniversary.
Wow, awesome.
I stopped seeing anyone for 15 months when I wanted to be married. And I asked God to send me the husband that he had for me. Now, the man I'm married to, my mother, his aunt worked in my mother's beauty salon. The families knew each other. He's 4 years older than me, but throughout our childhood and early adulthood, do you know that we never once met?
Wow.
Until the prayer time came. Until I was ready for the blessing of this man. Then we met. He courted me 2.5 years and then asked me to marry him. If I had met him when I was this unsure youngin' or this or that or what have you, yeah, I could think of 1,000 different scenarios. But God's timing is always perfect.
It sure is.
Yes, it is.
So it's not that he has to prepare the blessing.
Yeah.
The blessing's already prepared.
Yeah. And I'm finding that he's preparing character too.
Right?
Like some
my
blessings
gosh.
can't be had until our character is prepared for it.
Absolutely.
That's right.
But you can't get the character until you start going through and walking, right?
Can't do it. So you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You got to realize, what are you asking for and how are you preparing yourself to receive it? We prepare ourselves for everything else, but we want God to insta the story.
Well, let's take a commercial break and jump right back in. Great girlfriends, do you have your ticket to the 2018 Doers and Disruptors Conference? If not, what are you waiting for? Join us in New York for a 2-day event filled with brilliant doers and disruptors across various industries who started with an idea and blossomed to become great change agents. We can't wait to join with you for workshops, panels, connect groups, dance breaks, light bites, and more, while giving you tips and resources to fulfill your passion in your personal lives, careers, businesses, motherhood, and relationships. Log on to thegreatgirlfriendsconference.com and get a ticket for yourself and your greatest girlfriends. We'll see you there.
Oh, that you're segueing right into to that next piece, the process. We're in such an instant gratification age. Everyone wants it right now. They want to be able to show up right now. And if they can't get it, then they'll try to pretend that they have it and oversell it on social with the hopes that people will buy into the fact that it's something that it's not. And, most people that have ever achieved anything or received that blessing that was sitting there will say that there was a process to it and that we cannot forsake that. That's what builds the substance. But in your book, you also take us, you talk about substance and style and how the two go hand in hand, and that's what really makes style come alive, is having the substance. What about that process would you tell our young girls, our Insta generation, what's a few reminders that they need to have about the process so that they're not always trying to rush to the end result, want to put something on display that's not real? What about the process?
Patience is a virtue that pays you back in full. Mm-hmm. Patience is critical to everything that you desire. Everything that you desire. Mm-hmm. Really, the Insta stuff, you don't really want it. Mm-hmm. It's so elusive. You know, I boldly say in Editor in Chic, it's like the difference between sex and making love. Mm-hmm. One is over before you know it, and the other is a journey. Mm-hmm. It's a process. It's something that gives you it just stays with you.
It gives you 36 years.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you know, do you want to date your desires? Do you want to have an affair with your desires? Or do you want to have it for keeps? Mm-hmm. If you want it for keeps, patience must be a part of the process. Mm-hmm. Don't hurry through it. Mm-hmm. You won't get what you need. So then it's sort of like, you know, as I would say, you don't want to show up as an imposter. When you get to the throne, you want to be able to sit on there and own it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't want, because otherwise you're constantly looking over your shoulder.
And start competing.
Somebody going to find you out.
Yeah.
That you don't have everything you need to rule in the spot.
Oh, Mikki. Yes. Yes.
No question.
Yes.
Patience is a virtue that pays you back. And you have to ask yourself, am I trying to hurry up and get to the end? Am I trying to sprint my way to this? Or am I really prepared to take the long haul and get everything I need to be able to sustain this when I arrive?
And that's what we want. We want something sustainable.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you look at marriage, I tell women all the time, I say, we don't need any more married strangers.
Oh, my goodness. We don't. No.
Don't. So if he doesn't know what else to do with you besides have sex, keep moving. If you don't have time to court one another and really court your mind, your mental capacity, your spirituality, all the layers of love from Eros, which is that law of attraction, to that law that's the foundation, keep moving. Keep moving.
Don't give your life to those those moments.
Don't get off the bus at your wrong stop. At the wrong stop.
Yeah.
Don't get off too soon.
Oh, I hope you're listening, girlfriends, because so many of our girlfriends are, and look, and we try, get off, go, run. They don't listen to us, Mikki. I hope they're listening to you today. I mean, honestly, because you're giving life. You're giving time that you can't give back. And it is good time. It's time you can invest in the work, in the process, in building out the fortitude, the stamina. So when you do arrive at this blessing that comes, and the next one, you'll be ready to stand there and own it.
Right. And moreover, to teach people how to work with you, you first have to know the truth of who you are in order to teach others.
That's so real.
You know?
And how do you do that? How did you do that work for yourself? Like just working on or figuring out or discovering who is Mikki Taylor? Because I want our girlfriends to kind of start thinking about how do they work through and figure out and discover. Because, I mean, there's some girlfriends who they really have no clue. What? I'm stingy. What? And have no idea. What? Yeah. What? I like to be alone. No, I like people. But no, you're actually, so we find that people really don't take the time to really get to know themselves. What was that process like for you?
You have to put the time in. And by putting time in, that's what allows you to get comfortable in your own skin. You have to know the things that you like. One day I was in Atlanta. I took myself to lunch. It's a silly story, but I found out I was such great company and that I didn't need somebody else to turn that on for me, that I really could go to lunch by myself, go to a movie by myself, that I could even stumble by myself and have the strength to get back up. That failures didn't determine the truth of who I am. that in fact some of my best lessons were learned through failure. Yeah. So it's the sum of all of that. You got to think, you got to know that you're worth the investigation. And because also you can't expect somebody else to invest in what you won't expose. And before you can expose who you are, you got to know. You got to know.
And I mean, do you think women learn it through hiring coaches, going to therapy?
You mentioned life coaching earlier offline, and you were talking about that piece.
I think life coaching is so important. That's what my elders did for me. You know, we and I love branding things, and I love that it's called by all these fancy names, but that's what my elders did for me. They life coached me on who I am today. My mother, my grands, my dad, you know, and so, but you have to be willing to listen. And you have to be willing to apply the lessons. And even if you're going to test the water, my mother used to say sometimes, you know, you don't believe iron is hot. You know, so you touch it. So at least be honest enough to say, I know what she said, but I'm going to touch this. I'm going to test it for myself. But be clear. Don't be testing and think, oh, that's not hot. Come on.
It's hot. It's been hot for years.
So, I think life coaching is important. You know, sometimes we're afraid of our greatness. Sometimes we're afraid to face the truth of what God has deposited in us. And we have to be clear that, yes, you've been validated, and yes, this is who you are. Yeah, own it. And here's how you own it. And here's how you keep yourself from being spiritually robbed. And here's the company you need to keep, because this is who you are. Yeah, and you keep running to the wrong side of the road and expecting something else, and you're not getting that back because that's not where you belong. Yeah.
What do you think we're afraid of, Mikki?
I think Nelson Mandela said it best. We're afraid of how great we are. Who are we not to be fabulous? Who are we not to shine? Who are we not to invent this? Who are we not to do this or to do that? Yeah. Yeah. But if we always believe that, you know, I think like Asia Naomi King said, she had to stop believing that her blessing or her greatness was a tree growing in someone else's yard. You got to understand that is something that you possess. Yeah. I mean, the elders have taught us. Booker T. Washington said, excellence is to do a common thing in an uncommon way. What are you doing with that common thing in an uncommon way? When I brought my babies to work, because I was breastfeeding them and had a crib in my office, that hadn't been done before. But at 6 weeks, there was no way I was leaving my baby at home. Like I said, my brain wasn't dead. I had the capacity to turn out pages and nurse my baby.
Yes.
Wow.
In a common way. Because also every path that you tread, you make it possible for somebody else to
do it. Absolutely.
Or to blaze a new trail.
That's right.
Speaking of blazing new trails, on page 75, which is basically what you told me, it's about blazing a trail instead of taking the road well traveled.
Right. Right.
And I think that is the scary thing sometimes for us to do. But we have to realize that the people we're looking up to, or the people who we're looking to for inspiration, that's exactly what they've done for us.
That's right.
Which is why we have to keep moving into these uncharted territories to make room for the people behind us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you know, I even look at, you know, in terms of the career path. 6 years into my tenure at Essence, I pitched for the position of cover editor. Magazine had never had a cover editor before. No magazine on the newsstand had a cover editor. But I had a vision for Essence long before people talked about branding, that I wanted to create a signature look for us through the cover of this magazine, that you would recognize it no matter where you saw it in the world. That even if the masthead was covered up, you would know, this is my affirmation tool. That's Essence Magazine. Was it a risk? Absolutely. To brand a magazine for millions of women that they would see themselves, all shades, shapes, and sizes? Yeah. But I saw it. I didn't need to wait for permission. What God gives you, he's already validated. Believe him. Take him at his word. So what if it sounds crazy to someone else? You won't be the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mikki.
All our chest is just,
I feel so full. I feel like I just need to bust through this roof right now and just land on my star. No, I really, there's so much soul food, and I think we're probably partially being greedy right now, just sitting in it. Hopefully y'all are enjoying this episode as much as we are, because we are just sitting in it. We're sitting in it. But there's the other piece of this book that is so essential. It is the manual. Okay, we're talking skincare. Okay, we're talking nails. We're talking hair. I saw something about get those ends trimmed every 4 weeks. We're talking about processes that are important for us to take on. And one thing that we can say about you, Mikki, is that you are a timeless beauty.
Oh, thank you.
Timeless beauty. And I know that there are maintenance pieces that you've come to at every juncture in your life, and more you commit to travel, the more oxygen you need for your skin. Just being conscious of that and knowing that this was your palette to always take ownership of. Give us some few quickies. I want a birthday 40. I just turned 40, so I want to know what do I need to do at 40. But give us one. In the 20s we might go cheap on stuff. Then we get a little money in our 30s from our career, and we start taking a deeper investment. But how can our girlfriends start right where they are? I saw you talking about not skimping on these processes and products, because these things are essential to you maintaining this palette. What are some of the things that are in your bag?
Well, the interesting thing, speaking of 40, in fact, I walk us through the decades, if you will, in the skincare section from 20s to 50s beyond. Because I always believe when it comes to great skincare, particularly with us in this beautiful brown skin, that an informed defense is your best strategy, rather than damage control. So I talk a lot about what that means, in the skincare section. So for example, we love to try new things. And certainly the aging process, we age better than most. By the time, our aunties get those wrinkles, they've earned every one of them. And you better not talk otherwise. But, something as simple as if you're using an oscillating brush, those battery operated brushes. So first of all, because of the melanin in our skin, you want to be gentle. You don't want to use them more than 2 to 3 times a week. And you want to cleanse them every time. Not only that, though, because of the bacteria that builds up on these items, you want to put them in the microwave, the brush itself, for 10 seconds every week, just to kill that active bacteria, especially if you store it in your bathroom. Because, you could be getting breakouts, you don't know why, bacteria. So something as simple as that. Our skin craves moisture. So you don't want to use a moisturizer that doesn't have hyaluronic acid in it. Hyaluronic acid is an ingredient that holds 1,000 times its weight in water. So you want to look like your skin is always on vacation. That glow that we get, a moisturizer with hyaluronic acid. Yeah, it's so I put a lot of practical things in there. If your brows are getting sparse, certainly I talk about microblading, but maybe you're a gal whose brows are even absentee and you're using a pencil. Well, you want that pencil to stay. So especially if you're a little oily, so you want to use a matte primer on the brow bone. Then you can apply that pencil, because that pencil's going to hang in there all day as long as you're out and about. So it's little practical things like that that just keep us from skipping a beat. Certainly when I talk about hair, we are the CEOs of the natural hair movement. Companies are now learning from us. But, the one thing I want us to understand so that we don't have to do damage control is to understand the grade or the texture of our hair. And that you want to ascertain with a professional, because then you'll know what styles you can work, what products your hair craves, how to treat it, care for it at night, how to put it on a staycation, all of that. I talk about hair loss in the book. 21 million African-American women are losing their hair to some form of alopecia. And I've heard the girls say, oh, you need to take this hair food, or you need to do this. No, it's not It's not about that because there is no food that's going to go through your organs and say, oh, I'm passing the liver, I'm passing this, I'm passing that, I'm going straight to the scalp. The body doesn't work that way. You really want, the best advice you can give someone is to see a dermatologist who specializes in hair loss, a trichologist who specializes in hair and scalp disorders, or a hair restoration expert. What hair restoration experts are doing now, for those particularly who have lost their hairlines, they're doing what's known as platelet-rich plasma, whereas they extract the plasma from your blood and give you these injections, and the hair responds to that just like, oh my goodness, miracle grow for plants.
Wow.
But so it's not about, a hair food or this, that, and the other. If it was that simple, everyone would have it. So I really tell you the truth because I don't want us to fall for imposter marketing when it comes to our beauty in any way. In any way.
Speaking of hair lace fronts wigs, can we I want to know what you think about this trend right now of lace front wigs and what's happening underneath, which is when people unveil, they do find that their hair has just died.
So you have to understand that your hair follicles are living, breathing things. So if you're wearing a lace front wig, we have to look at why they were created. They were created for film. So if you're not on a movie set every day, think 2-3 times about a lace front wig. Maybe you're a gal for just a human hair wig or a synthetic wig if you like to change it up. A lace front wig is going to tax your hairline without question. So if you're someone who's using tape every day, remember, when you take that tape off, you're pulling your hair out by the roots. So imagine if you went and got your hair waxed every day. That's the principle of your lace front wig.
Teach your body to stop
or if
going.
you're putting glue on, you can get an infection from the repeated use of the glue. It's, it's an area that can't breathe. So again, we have to think responsibly about our beauty. I'm not saying don't wear a lace front wig, but understand the process.
Absolutely. And the long-term effect. Clearly,
Right.
if you can,
Exactly.
I'm seeing it at Dwayne Reed.
Right.
I'm seeing
Right.
seeing them everywhere. And and people are advocating for how easy it is. And I'm thinking, well, goodness, what's
You
happening
saw a
when
lace
you're
front at Dwayne Reed?
I mean, you're seeing young girls wearing them, working everywhere. I'm sorry, I'm seeing them as the cashiers are working, and I'm seeing them at the subway. I'm seeing them everywhere, and I'm just wondering when they turn 40 and 50, what will they have to show for the years of putting that kind of pressure on their heads?
Right. It will exact a toll, and I talk about that at length in the book. And furthermore, you get what you pay for. So then if you're not investing in a good lace front wig, I'm talking about spending $2,500 or more. Again, what is the material that's laying next to your scalp? What is it costing you? So again, we have to choose between the the instant gratification and the long-term wisdom.
Yes.
What's non-negotiable for you?
Yes. What's your essential when you wake up, Mikki? What's your essential?
Prayer.
Okay.
Have my first meeting of the day. Prayer.
I love
Got to have the conversation with my maker. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's my COO. How am I starting my day? What am I going to execute without checking in first? Prayer, meditation is essential. I have to get still and hear what's on my heart before I can start listening to others. Prayer and meditation, essential.
And what's your essential makeup item?
Oh, that's a desert isle question. So you know what I always say when someone says, well, what would you take if you had to go to a desert isle? I say I wouldn't go. And I talk about that in the book because I got to pack. I'm sorry. I got to pack.
Okay, so the TSA takes your bag and you're in Cleveland and they land you at a Walgreens. And they're like, you have to get your makeup from here because everything else is closed and it's 1 a.m.
I've had that happen. Yeah. I went to work with Oprah in Chicago and I got snowed in and I had to go to a Walgreens. Yeah. So I had to find my skincare first. Yeah. Then my foundation, great lipstick, mascara, a real performing mascara. Yeah. powder or blotting papers to, blot the shine. But I don't plan on getting stranded often. I don't like it. Doesn't work for me.
I love it.
Doesn't work for me. In fact, I give my desert isle list in the book. Yeah, Bible, paddle brush, sun protection. It's all in there.
And you said don't match your makeup, your lipstick, your eyeshadows to your clothing.
You're more
meant to
creative.
Compliment.
Yeah.
Be more creative. Yeah,
You're more creative than that.
That is just
You
not
are
it.
so more creative
Yes.
than that. Besides, it's about expressing your beauty. What do you want to say about yourself? That I got the same colors as my clothes? Not really. That's not really what you want to say.
No.
You want to say, you see these fabulous full lips?
Yes.
You see my eyes? I played with my eye space today. Do you see? Oh my gosh, I just love what happens when I smile and I got these great cheekbones and I just want to warm them a little bit. Maybe that's what I'll do today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it means you have to stop being in a hurry with yourself.
Oh, yes, Lord.
You have to take some time with yourself. Enjoy you.
Yes.
Yeah. Even in the fashion section, I talk about, the best women dress to entertain themselves.
Yes.
It's not about trends.
Yes.
It's about you. How do you enjoy you? And again, that's part of thriving. That's part of thriving. It's not surviving. It's not getting out the door on time. Even with my staff with the work, I tell them, you're more than a deadline. Don't bring me your deadline work. Bring me your contribution. I'll wait for it. Don't want your deadline stuff.
Mikki, what do you feel is your gift to the world?
Oh, the ability to empower millions of women whose name I may never know, but that I held up the mirror on womanhood and told us the truth of how beautiful we are. And the, days when I know that even when I'm at a beauty company and I'm trying to help said company see the truth of who we are and how we as women of color think, I'm reminded of when I had the opportunity to teach at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy in South Africa several years ago, part of a festival at her invitation. And when I came back home, one of the young women, they all wrote to me, but one of them wrote to me and she thanked me for coming and she said, I didn't know I was beautiful until you came. And that still gets me up every single day. I will not have any one of us, not see the magnificent truth of who we are. I'm good.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you
I can tell you with certainty that your gift has been, you have given it 1,000,000 times over, and it is so well received by all of us. You have made yourself available.
Oh, yeah.
And
Don't
that
do
has
that.
been it's been a gift. And, by whether near or far, you make it available and you never stop generating it and giving it and giving it. And yeah.
No, can't do that. That's why I'm here.
Your children are so generous to share you with all of us. Your husband, your family is truly generous to share you in the way. I would never let one. No, that's my mama. She is not leaving the house. That is mine. And I'd be like, okay, she can go because she has to. Because this needs to happen, and everyone that's listening needs to own this book 5 times over for yourself and your greatest girlfriend. You don't need to give them no lipstick and no Sephora gift cards. They need to get this book.
Yes, editor in Chic.
They need this book.
Amazing. I mean, we just need this so much right now. We need your voice right now. We need your words, your wisdom. I feel like there's like such a void at this moment, and we need to hear more. I'm so happy that this book is here.
Thank you.
We need to hear your voice more and more.
Yeah, your spirit.
And more, because, you give from your wisdom, from what you know so generously. And you've probably seen it all from so many different people and perspectives. So, like, what you're telling us is not even all the time, like, things have happened from, I'm sure some of the wisdom comes from scenarios you've seen happen with other people.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I worked with Rosa Parks and how humble she was and how, she was so excited. We did the hair, the makeup, but mostly we sat and spent time with her and talked with her and understood the exhaustion of a people in her heart that day on the bus. It wasn't that she was only tired, but tired for all of us. Or when I think about the late Dr. Betty Shabazz, or even sitting with James Baldwin, I talk about that in the book because James Baldwin helped me to stop going to work. James Baldwin paid a visit to us one day at Essence, and just sitting with him and talking about the joy and the privilege of what we were able to do for others. I never went to work a day after that having that conversation with him. Service. And I think that, all of the great sheroes and heroes in my life, they've all been about service, not status. That I can't help but be the same. Can't help but be the same.
How in the world did you pick the name of this book? Because I've heard like 5 different titles from this conversation, Service, not status.
My editor at Simon & Schuster, yeah, he did. He just said, no, he said, I really think that it just needs to be editor-in-chief. And he said, that's who you are. That's what you're even basically helping every woman to be the editor-in-chief of her life, because that's what a good editor does. They choose what works and what doesn't. And that title made the most sense to me. I was like, hey, you got it. This is it.
I love it. And the cover is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
And Sybil and I have the galley copies, which we're so excited about. And Mikki Taylor goes, no, you're supposed to have the hard copy. We're going to get the hard copies. But we're so excited to have our galley copies.
Gosh.
And Sybil always says whenever we have an author in that we absolutely adore, which we only invite authors in that we absolutely personally love, she's always like, you can't be selfish when you buy a book. You buy, you can't just go and buy one book. When you buy a book, you need to buy several.
It's irresponsible use of wisdom and resources.
Yes.
You owe it to yourself with your resource to pass the wisdom forward and over, and you have to. And when someone puts their life into a book, a body of work, we owe it to that author to show up in the market and put that book where it belongs.
Yes.
I think it's responsibility. I think we owe it to them.
So my dream is that this would be on every night table.
Yes.
I can see
dream
it. I mean,
fulfilled.
honestly,
Absolutely.
it feels like food. It feels like spiritual food.
I want my little 6-year-old to be able to pick this up
And just read a
Absolutely.
Just read. Honestly, in this book, you can just read a sentence.
I can read to her. And then when I show her who she is and I explain this to her as sort of a manual and guide for things that we should consider as women of all ages, because she's ready to know these things. She's ready to be affirmed with this, and she's ready to be nurtured with this wisdom. So that's what's so good about it. It's for the woman, the evolving, the growing, the budding woman, the littles all the way up. So Sky will one day be able to, when you start reading, these books to her, she'll be able to grab it and take it in. She knows she's ready. Okay, Mikki, where can they find you on social?
So we can continue the conversation certainly on Instagram and Twitter at I am Mikki Taylor, on Facebook at Mikki Taylor, and certainly on LinkedIn at I am Mikki Taylor.
And where can they find the book? Where do you want them to buy the book? Because some authors have preferences on where they want them to go buy the book.
So you can buy the book. I'm hoping you all will all go to Amazon.com and create a tsunami by pre-ordering your copy today.
Yes, absolutely. And when you pre-order your copy, go and write a review.
Please write a review.
Of the book.
And I'm also hoping you'll catch up with me and we can continue the conversation and really have fellowship. I don't believe in networking. Networking is where women exchange cards and you go home and you forget who you met and why. But when you fellowship, you exchange numbers.
Yes.
And you intend to contribute to one another in some way. So I hope you'll network, you'll rather fellowship with me on the journey. In fact, kicking off May 1st, which is my launch day, I'll be at Barnes & Noble on 86th Street. I'll be having the conversation with Soledad O'Brien.
Oh,
And every market, I'll be having the conversation with an empowered woman, much like yourself. And I hope you'll join me.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
My heart is so full. We still have Kamara in the studio with us.
Which is why I'm coming home with you.
My heart is so full. Thank you so much for just sharing. And
Thank you.
I literally feel like I've just been sitting at your feet.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So
And she's just been rubbing
I
our
do.
heads and just
I do like you were braiding my hair while you were talking. You know, like
That's a good thing.
that's how it's felt.
That's fellowship.
We could not end this podcast without thanking our amazing husbands.
Yes, thank you, Kwaku.
And thank you so much, Rich Daniel.
And our beautiful children, thank you, Sam and Dylan.
And thank you, Miss Sky Daniel.
And thank you to all of you great girlfriends for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter.
You can check us out on our social, on Instagram,
The Great Girlfriends,
on Twitter,
_great GFS,
and on Facebook.
The Great Girlfriends.
And please make sure that you join our Facebook group, which is over 16,000 women strong.
Absolutely. And make sure you listen every single Wednesday on iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Bean, Podcast Republic, Google Play, and every other podcasting service.
Absolutely.
Be sure to post your questions, share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're signing off.
Peace.
Peace.